Hey y'all, welcome back.
It's Wednesday, so you know it's time for Winging It.
Late version.
A little bit late today, but you know what? We feel like we're going to talk about a really important topic today, and that is, as RVers, how do you prepare for and deal with weather?
So, stick around. Okay, sorry this Winging It is late, but life happens, and we normally film these on Tuesday. Yesterday had a bunch of family things to take care of. Everybody's okay, but it took almost the whole day, so we weren't able to film yesterday. Had to actually film on Wednesday. We're filming this right before we post it, and so that's why we're late today.
Okay, so to get to it, in case you're new to our channel and to Winging It, what we do is we set the timer on my phone for 10 minutes. We talk about the topic. When the timer goes off, we wrap things up. This is totally unedited, unscripted, and you get what you get. But hit that subscribe button if you haven't already joined us and come along for the fun. All right, we're going to set the timer on my phone. 10 minutes. We're winging it.
Yep, we're winging it.
Okay, so, weather is something that everybody, I think, has to take into major consideration. But especially as RVers, it's really, really important that we pay attention to what's coming up and what's going on around us. And there's a few things we've learned over the years that might help you be a little more prepared on your travels. So first, let's talk about some of the tools that we use to check the weather and know what's going on. The easiest thing is the apps on your phone. I have 11 weather apps on my phone, all as backups. They all give a little bit different information sometimes. Sometimes one works better than another. I really have 3 that are my go-to apps. So I thought I would just share those with you real quick.
And I'm checking weather apps too when she is. I tend to use local weather apps, like local weather channels. Mm-hmm. That's what I usually do.
So what I use mostly is Storm Radar. I find that app gives a really good future and past radar view that really stretches out over a period of hours, a lot more than some of the other apps. So I like that one a lot. And then AccuWeather and WeatherBug are what I've found to be, for the most part, the most accurate of the weather apps that I use. But what's important about using a weather app, if you're moving as an RVer, is when you get to a new location, you need to open up that app and let it find where you are. Or it's going to happen to you what happened to us when we were in Red Bay, Alabama. After spending some time in Galveston, Texas, we were in Red Bay and our phones started going off with weather notifications and alerts.
For Galveston.
It was for Galveston because the apps thought we were in Galveston.
But with that, especially for people in the mid part of the country, Tornado Alley, but lately here in Texas, we had a very bad tornado hit just north of Houston in an area that normally tornadoes like that don't hit. So you always, when you come in to a new RV park or a new state park or whatever, know where your shelters are. Know where you need to get to if the weather starts to turn bad. You know, in many state parks, it's the bathrooms. Right. Even in Texas, they normally will tell you, go to the bathrooms, shelter in place. But when you're in Tornado Alley, those parks all have designated areas. They pretty much... Storm shelters. So you'll know exactly where you need to go when the weather turns bad. I mean, here recently, the Freedom Theory, unfortunately... they lost their RV and their parents lost their RV. They're both full-time RVers in a real bad storm. They were in a wooded area. Bad storm hit. Luckily, they got out. They got out before it hit. They knew it was looking bad. They probably had some of these apps. Mm-hmm. They piled in the car, got out of there. Both of their RVs were totaled.
Mm-hmm. Trees fell on them.
Yeah,
but they were all okay.
They were all
weren't
okay.
There.
And
so don't be afraid to leave.
Yeah,
that's an important point. And you know what some folks suggest is having what they call a bug out bag. You can have a bag set up ready to go somewhere that's easy to access, that has things that are critical for you, maybe medication, for example, or important paperwork. Things that if something were to happen to your RV and those things weren't with you, it would be a big problem for you. So maybe having something like that is a good idea, that just in case something should happen, you're prepared to just grab that, grab your pet's leash, their carrier, whatever you need for them, maybe some pet food, and head off to the shelter.
And you know, we grew up on the Gulf Coast, Stacy and I. We're used to hurricanes, you know, and hurricanes is something that a full-time RVer should never have a problem with, because you know they're coming. I mean, they don't just, it's not like a tornado where they show up. So if they're at all projected to come to your area, just leave. Yep. You know,
you have wheels.
Yeah,
use them.
Just leave and go to another area, because you know it's no joke. If you're on the coast and a hurricane hits, you don't want to be in an RV on the coast with a hurricane hitting. So,
well, and the same thing goes for if you're camping on a river. You know, river camping can be awesome, but if there are storms north of you, upriver, and that river floods, it might become flash flooding, and that can be a serious issue that can take you completely by surprise, especially if it's not raining where you are.
So that's a good point. If you are camping on a river, you've got to keep track of the weather north of the river, where upriver, because
when we were in South Dakota, we were at Custer State Park, and we had been in the town of Custer earlier that day having pie and ice cream and having a fantastic time.
Yeah.
We drove back to the campground in Custer. We got to visiting with some other folks that we met there, and about less than 2 hours after we got back, the park host came around and said, "You cannot leave the park going into Custer because Custer is flooded." And it hadn't rained since we had been gone. And it was because it had rained so much upriver that the waters came down and flooded the town.
Yeah, and literally, Stacy says 2 hours. That was less than an hour after we left. And I couldn't even believe it. We had filmed on top of the Jeep going through Custer because that's when Sturgis was in town. So we were showing all the bikes and everything. And so when the guy came and said it's flooded, I got out my video and showed him. I said, we just drove through there and it wasn't raining anymore. So that's what we're talking about. That it can happen. So you got to be careful if you're on a river.
And please don't try to drive your RV through water over the road. That is so dangerous.
Yes, it is. That is dangerous. Another thing we wanted to bring up in this Winging It before we run out of time is if you're interested in national parks, we've got a neat little tip of something that's coming up on the national parks.
Yep, Ken Burns' documentary of the national parks is going to be streaming on PBS coming up soon. I'm not exactly sure when it's going to start. But, you know, since we can't visit the parks right now, it might be a fun way to spend some time. You can go to PBS's website and search national parks, and you can check that out to see when it's going to be streaming if you're interested. But I do have a couple more weather tips for you, other ways besides the apps that you can know what's going on in your area. Because sometimes you're going to be in an area where cell service doesn't work very well, and it's important to have backup means. One, you can use a weather radio, and we have one. We carry it all the time. We've carried one for years. You can get them that run off like AA or AAA batteries. Ours runs off batteries, but if the batteries die, we can crank it, and it's also got a little solar strip if you can get any sun. It also turns into a flashlight. Now, I will tell you, of the weather radios we've owned, none of them have gotten fantastic reception on the weather stations, but a lot of times you can get them enough that you can hear what's going on. And we can usually access the AM or the FM local stations that will be giving weather reports. So that's a fantastic thing to have. I will link in the description to the one that we've got. We bought it on Amazon if you want to look at it. We like it because it's small and portable, and it's even got a carabiner. We can just strap it to us and go. Another thing you can do is check with the park itself. When we were in the national parks, we noticed that most of the national parks, we didn't get cell service at the campground, but they would have on a board what the 5-day forecast was going to be, and a lot of times in more detail what the forecast for that day and the next day.
Yeah, that was really helpful.
So you could prepare. So, and if you can't find that, you can always talk to a park ranger or someone at the RV park who can probably find out more information for you.
And that's worth checking every day, because like Stacy said, when we were in Yellowstone, when we were in Yellowstone, no cell service at all, none. But it really helped us to go to the station and see what the weather was supposed to be the next day, and sometimes 2 days in advance. So at least you knew what was coming, and if you needed to be alerted to anything that, could be potential real bad weather.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to seek that out. Don't be afraid to ask. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Always be prepared.
Yes, for sure.
So, all right. Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this slightly delayed Winging It.
Yeah.
On Sunday, we're going to be returning with another fun travel video from our travels last summer. So we hope you enjoy that. And we hope you'll join us on Friday at 1 o'clock Central on Facebook at RV Texas Y'all for our Facebook Friday Live, where we'll be talking about Tyler State Park.
Give us a thumbs up on the video if you liked it.
And we will see you next time. Until then, safe travels.
And happy camping.
Bye.
Bye.